After using some of the latest and greatest laptops for review in the office, my personal MacBook Pro is really kind of starting to show its age. And don't get me wrong, despite a few scuffs and some normal wear and tear, this 2013 15-inch i7 MacBook Pro works just fine. I can edit 4K video on it, and most apps work perfectly normal. But the battery life just isn't what it used to be, and after seeing some improvements and all of the new features added to the new MacBook Pros over the years, I thought that maybe it's time for an upgrade. So for the past week, I've been testing out the new 13-inch 2018 MacBook Pro from Apple, and I've realized after using it, it's just not the computer for me. Let me tell you why. I was really curious to see the new refinements and the additions compared to my older MacBook Pro, and I also wanted to try out a smaller model for the first time. After using a 15-inch for the past 5 years, something a little bit smaller definitely sounded appealing. And as expected, build quality on this machine is absolutely superb, and the all-aluminum body feels incredibly premium, as it should for this price. The rest of the MacBook Pro remains pretty much the same in terms of design. The machine is available in silver and also the space gray color that we have here. The first thing I was both really excited and very hesitant to try with this new generation of MacBook Pros is that new generation of butterfly switches on the keyboard. After hearing the horror stories and all the keyboard issues people had with the last generation, and briefly spending some time with those older butterfly switches, I was more than a bit wary to use this new MacBook Pro keyboard. And I honestly thought I would hate it. But I gotta say that after a few days of typing, I was actually really impressed with the improvements made to these newer switches. It may just sound like a small point on a spec sheet, but the addition of that plastic membrane to keep dust and other particles from getting lodged underneath those keys actually makes all the keys on the keyboard a bit more tactile and comfortable to type on, and it was a noticeable difference for me. And to be totally honest with you guys, I still prefer that older style of MacBook Pro keyboard, but I know I could definitely get used to this with just a bit more time. It's not nearly the deal breaker I thought it would be. The addition of an oversized trackpad on this MacBook Pro is fantastic and a welcomed addition, and I still believe that Apple makes the best trackpads you can buy right now. PC manufacturers are definitely coming close and they're catching up, but the size, the precision, and the combination of how well that hardware works with software really makes for an almost flawless experience. The Touch Bar, of course, isn't anything new to the MacBook Pro, but it is new to me, and it's the first time I'm actually using it, and my thoughts are a little bit mixed. And I really can't say the addition of a small OLED strip above the keyboard is anything I was really wanting for and clamoring for, but application support for it has gotten a lot better. But in the end, it's gonna be one of those things you either love or hate. To me, it didn't add anything to my MacBook Pro experience, and I didn't use it all that much, but for you and your workflow, it could be a nice addition. Other things like speaker quality have been a pleasant surprise and greatly improved. I love the addition of the Trudeau display, though honestly it just wasn't for me and I kept it off most of the time. And the transition to the USB Type-C feature has been a bit bumpy, but with a bunch of other PC manufacturers following Apple's lead and the abundance of third-party dongles out there, it's not nearly the nightmare it once was. I do love that all the ports on this machine are Thunderbolt 3 compatible, meaning that I can not only charge this machine on any of the 4 ports, but I can power external storage arrays, external monitors, or even external GPU enclosures from one of any of the 4 ports on here, which is a really big deal for content creators and something that I definitely appreciate about this machine. My current MacBook Pro's battery has begun to slip a bit, and I noticed that it's draining a lot faster than it used to. Obviously, it's 5 years old, so that's to be expected. And it was honestly really nice to use a computer that could get me throughout a whole day of work. I got about 8 hours of use on this 13-inch MacBook Pro's battery, enough, of course, like I said, to last an entire day with web browsing, Slack, video streaming, and a bit of video editing thrown in there as well, though any demanding task like video editing is going to drain that battery a bit faster than web browsing would. All this stuff is important, but what matters most to me is performance. And the machine we have here is the baseline Touch Bar model, optioned with 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gigabyte SSD, and a quad-core i5 processor, which is a big deal for apps like Final Cut Pro that can really take advantage of all those cores. I used this machine to edit a few videos throughout the week, and I found it to be faster than my old MacBook Pro, no surprise there, but it was even faster than my 2014 quad-core i7 5K iMac in the office that's loaded with 32 gigs of RAM and pretty much all the bells and whistles for its time. The machine handled a pretty large 12.5-minute 4K project without any issues at all, and when it came time to export, the 2018 13-inch MacBook Pro could do it in just about 6.5 minutes. That's faster than the nearly 8 minutes on my older MacBook Pro, and significantly faster than my work iMac, which took over 8 minutes. Final Cut, of course, is really well optimized to older machines, so the numbers were not as drastic as I thought they would be. Even other less optimized programs like Premiere Pro and After Effects exported much faster on here than it did on my older MacBook Pro. Obviously, of course, this is to be expected. Processing power and processing upgrades have made big improvements over the past few years, but with that aside, I was again just impressed on the raw performance of a small 13-inch laptop with no dedicated GPU and an i5 quad-core processor. These machines have been known to thermal throttle, but Apple pushed an update back in late July that appeared to fix things, and I did not experience any thermal throttling of my own during my testing period with this machine. The machine did run hot, and again, you have to understand that with a laptop this size and Apple's design language, there are going to be some compromises made for design that may not be the best for cooling the actual CPU, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter too much to me. I didn't see a big performance hit, and it wasn't a deal breaker for this machine and for me in my use case. Obviously, updating a laptop to a model 5 years newer is going to be a big deal, and this laptop did not disappoint in any way. But I gotta be honest, with my money, this is not the MacBook Pro that I would buy, and I am not gonna be keeping this 13-inch 2018 model. I know I'm going to differ from many of you out there, but for me and my use case and my personal preference, I would much rather go with the 15-inch model with a dedicated GPU, more onboard storage, more RAM, and the higher end processor. I know that for many people out there, this 13-inch model is the perfect form factor and the perfect size, and it packs plenty of features and processing power, and especially for under $2,000, you're getting a lot for your money. But despite its portability, I mainly missed that extra screen resolution you'd get on the 15-inch model. Another benefit of that 15-inch MacBook Pro is that the base config is going to give you a 6-core i7 processor that turbo boosts up to a higher clock speed, something that's important for me and the work that I do.